What is up, guys? Merry Christmas and all of that. Welcome to another video. In this particular one, coming back from work, driving the Lexus, the daily, 330,000 Ks on it. She is an old girl. She has had a lot of experience. She's an experienced woman. There's no intake noise, there's no exhaust, there's no modifications on her at all actually. Since I've got the car, I haven't even cleaned the interior yet. Just jump in, drive it, that's it. So we're going to sort that out with some of my spare parts, scrap, old pod filter from, I think that's from the Audi, and yeah, let's get that done.
Perfect.
Alright, so stock intake, this is the setup. You got this little vent guy here. I guess that's meant to get air from there. There's a tiny little gap in here, and then that is obviously the bonnet comes down and closes against that lip, so fuck knows where it's meant to get its cold air from, because that's all blocked off behind there, if you can see that. That doesn't really work. Anyway, stock airbox. There's a little intake on the side there from behind the light, it seems. It is hot as shit inside here too, and the box, and the arm itself, the motor, everything up here is hot. And that's a short drive from the gym. Got this old guy here. This looks like it's been through the wars. Very old. Definitely needs replacement. Bit of crap got in here by the look of it. And this is the adapter for this guy here. Something we need to get rid of. So this is the rocker cover breather. Get on there somehow. Anyway, you get the idea. We have this little baffle guy here too. Kind of silences the intake noise because it is a bigger car. More luxury than, performance, I guess. But this is the girl here. Interior is buck nasty. She's got some love. You can see under the handles. Back seat is probably the worst. You can see needs a detail. There's children have existed in this vehicle. Now front needs a good clean, good detail. Excuse all of my mess in the car. This is shocking though. I don't know if you can see that behind me there, but the handle, is what it is. Cheap car. Now she's got 330,000 kilometers on it, with 127,000 on the motor. So I brought this car, 2 blown head gaskets, which was made really evident when I pulled the exhaust off, and it was full of water. When you unbolt an exhaust and 20 liters worth of water and coolant come out, something's not right. So replaced the engine, rebuilt the trans. I actually broke the oil pump on the transmission, installing the auto back on. I put it on and rattled down all the bolts and heard a crack. Turns out it was the ring gear for the oil pump on the auto, because I'm not too familiar with autos. Got that replaced, got a new oil pump for it, so she's obviously good now. Factory belt, factory plugs, runs like 10% coolant, and the rest of it's just tap water from the old hose. Oil is a mix of 3 different oils that I had left over. I'm pretty sure I changed the oil filter. That's pretty much it. I used good quality trans fluid. Done a full flush on that, done the flush on the diff as well, just to freshen that up. Everything else is actually pretty good. It's not too bad. There's a few marks, scratches, and some brownies from a friend there. You can see the bonnet as well. Got that fade going on, and a lovely crack in the windscreen, which is getting replaced on the 28th, a few days from now. So that's good. But overall, as a daily, bloody good. Cheap on gas when you're cruising. Pretty alright on gas when you're not. then you give it some shit. Take it up into the hills, into the mountains. She does alright. Front bushes, both sides are all clapped out. Rear actually seems pretty good, pretty well planted. Front shocks are clapped out as well. You can hear the knocking, you can hear the bushes knocking, so we're going to deal with some of that stuff, but we'll show you that with a few driving vids in the hills. But I thought, seeing as I'm meant to be taking time off from these and, you know, having a bit of a break for Christmas, do something for myself, and I don't want to spend any money, so we'll get into the old spare parts boxes and see what we can do with a good cold air intake. Now I'm going to run it stainless all the way across, and I'm actually going to drill a hole through this fender well here and run it down next to the chassis rail inside here, because it'll be cold air, and unlike some of these Hondas that have, well, that doesn't have a front bar on it, like an egress straight into where the filter is, unless I go through some mac and puddles, which I won't because I don't drive that often anymore anyway, she should be good. Be able to put the filter in here. There's a lot more cooler air in there, obviously, and it is well protected. You can see there's plastic shields all the way down that segregate that area. We'll run another heat shield over the top just to make sure. Yeah, let's just see what we've got, what we can piece together, and I'll get you some sound clips of the factory airbox actually. Well, as you can tell, quiet as all shit. Now it's sitting at 2000 RPM before blipping, and nothing. And that's bonnet open, even quieter with the bonnet closed, so definitely got to sort something out there. A little bit of throttle response would be nice too. It doesn't have any mods, so there is no throttle controller. It's obviously drive-by-wire, which a throttle controller is definitely going to help a lot, but just haven't gotten to that point yet. So let's, yeah, I guess let's pull all this crap off. Start swapping some stuff around, drilling holes, welding some tube. Turn off our traction control. Whee, bit of a truck there. Thank you. Oh, bit of a sketchy corner there. Alright, so hold down our button. We can turn off our traction control and stability control. And give it some fucking juice. And this is foot to the floor. And she gets up and goes. She moves pretty good, especially for an old girl. You can feel all the bushes and everything moving around. But other than that, it's a good daily. Nice, quiet, easy to get around with. AC works a treat. Very, very chilly. Heater works. Heated seats, cooled seats, automatic 6-speed. Nice and crisp 6-speed still. It's not a dual clutch transmission, but she still does pretty good. She shifts nicely. Alright, whole $34. We got 2 new clamps. So I should only need 2 clamps for this in total. And this stuff here, 227 tube. or Sikaflex 227 is actually what it is. Now this is a body sealant. It's good for just real random stuff actually. I use it for so much stuff. So a universal sealant exclusively for crash body repair, which is used to create a continuous bonding seal on interior and exterior automotive body joints, and is suitable for making permanent elastic seals of high adhesive strength. That is the part that we want, the high adhesive strength and elastic. We want it to be somewhat flexible, still seals, still airtight, still waterproof, all of that kind of stuff, and this is the business for that. So let's get back at it. Now, this is our pile of random crap that we're going to make an intake out of. So I've got all my scrap stuff there. We've got spare steel and all of that kind of stuff there. Plenty of it. Was going to run this tube, but then I found this shiny boy still in its packet. So, stainless. We got a couple of clamps, like I just mentioned, our sealant. We have a pod filter, which needs a clean. Yep, we got some stuff up there, so I'll go through that, clean this, make this bad boy red again. This is the K&N filter that I had on my Audi A4 before it got wrecked, or before I wrecked it actually. Anyway, we got some hoses and clamps, all the spare bits and pieces, all cut-offs and stuff that I hoard. Man, we pretty much have this in the bag. I got a big old hole saw here so we can cut a hole in the car. What I'm going to do now is I'm going to take the air... Oh, come this way. I'm going to take off this airbox, tube, duct, and the front bumper. Get a good idea of what we can do, where we can fit things, if we can fit things, and where I can cut some holes and stuff. Alrighty, start and finish is basically where we want them. So this is the hose, used hose, just cut it down, trimmed it nicely. Always use a new fresh razor blade as you saw, and just rotate that because there's a slight lip on that if you want to get a perfect cut all the way around. That's perfect where that is. You can see the alignment comes all the way down to the hole that is potentially going to be right there, right in there. We're going to have to take this bad boy, that might be the frontal impact sensor. Grind the tab off that, flip that, face that the other way, sure that'll be fine. Big old hole in there, 3-inch, and this filter is going to have to tuck in here nicely. We got a little bit of, you can see there's a little bit of room there for play. Doesn't matter if it rubs on anything really, it's a pod filter, so not the end of the world. But we should be able to get the tube in there and try and get him to sit perfectly right. Actually, a bit more angle right to there. And see, you get some cold air from this brake duct here. We might drill out a couple of holes up there to try and feed a little bit more cold air at this pod filter here. Obviously we're not going to cut out too much because we don't want water egress in here, but with the front bar on, this is fully enclosed. This comes up, there's a small hole here. Water may get in there, so I might just tape over that or put something on the bottom here just to cover that up. But in saying that, the bumper also has the lights down there as well, and that might cover it up a bit. Well, this seems like a good position right here. It's tucked in there nice and tight. So start, finish. Now we need to get our tube. I figure about 140 degrees is the bend that I'm going to need. Unfortunately I don't actually have any bends that I can see in there of this like diameter and stuff, so another quick gander. No bueno. No, doesn't look like it. Looks like I used them all. Which is fine. I'll make some pie cuts. We'll weld up about 140 degrees before working out the lengths of each end. So we'll make the bend in this first, weld it together, and then see how short we have to cut it to get it on the right kind of like angle down into that bumper. But let's get a cut. Now, got a rough mock-up on the arm. So this part here sits up at the throttle body, obviously needs to be cut to actual proper length. And we've got our 11 degrees there. This comes down. You can sit that on the end, and we can also rotate it to get different degrees out of it as well. So if we want it more of a straight off that angle there, we can have it straight, but if we need it to come down more of a 90, depending on that length there, we can obviously just rotate it. So what we need to do is work out where it's going to sit, which is hard because we don't have the hole to align it. We get a little bit of movement and flex up here, i.e. we can move this up down the front like so. Now, hopefully this slides in. Oh yeah, nice. You can see we've got an angle facing down there. We're going to shoot this down through the hole we're about to drill there. So we have a big bastard 3-inch hole saw. So I'm just going to use this old guy. I think I've used it once before, being 3 inches. You don't generally cut holes that big and stuff. Well, I don't. So we're going to try and find a spot down there. I've unclipped all of the headlight loom and everything like that from underneath and moved everything out of the way. And what I want to do is try and line it right up the front. So get it right up the front there as close as possible, because I can always trim back. But we just want to keep it as close to the headlight as possible. So go ahead, let's see how that turns out. Boys, we have our mock-up done. So you can see throttle body all the way through down there to our pod filter, which is just chilling out in there now. Now it clears if you remove this mat out. Obviously I need to get some soap and water and clean up in there a bit, but looking pretty good. She clears the side of this guy here, so I'm presuming this being the older version of the IS, that these are actually quite large, and I believe I'll have a look into it as well. I'll have a quick gander. The Parkers or the driving lights DRLs for the newer models are probably a lot smaller, in all honesty, because these ones are, you have a look at that. That is a big unit. Look at that, huge. I'm going to change those to LEDs too while I'm at it. But you can see, chills out, sits there nicely. Now this brake duct here, I am going to maybe drill some holes, just a couple of small holes at the top of this here. That might scoop and feed a little bit more cold air into this. I do want to be cautious of where I drill those holes, just simply because I don't want rainwater to get in there and be pushed at the pod. But yeah, I'm going to pull this guy up, which comes out all one piece. Obviously I'm going to have to get the pod filter on the end and put the clamp on every time I want to take it on and off, but no biggie. It's just a couple of bolts and you can pull off one side, so looking good. Let's get this welded up. Now welding and mock up again is all in place. So we got that welded, we got that section down there welded. She's looking pretty good, pretty tidy, very simple. Pod filter is attached, it's just sitting on there, no clamp on it, but everything, as you can see, fits back in as per normal. Pretty bloody good. There's a decent amount of space down there. Pretty good, pretty happy. Going to have to now, oh well, we need this guy, so mass airflow, gonna have to get this guy into that pipe somehow, and the way I'm going to do that is with the goop that I bought before. So we'll take this guy off and we'll get the Dremel and we'll cut a section of this out and trim it down, and then drill a hole. You'll see the circle that I need to drill. We'll drill the hole, we'll epoxy, or not epoxy, we'll goop that stuff all over it, and make a good gasket underneath and seal it up, put that on and let that dry. Then this can just screw on. As you can see, it's got the 2 screws there, airtight, has the little bung on the inside. Beautiful, good to go. And look at me making a bloody mess. It was meant to be a quick job this afternoon, but anyway, choppity chop, done. Chop this guy up. So you can see we just cleaned up the edges nicely. You don't need to worry about the scuffing on the edge there, because when we hit it with a heat gun, that'll kind of melt those edges and make them nice and black again. Obviously you do not do it with the sensor in it. We got some 120 grit and 80 grit and 120 grit, and just went ham on this. You can see the underside of that. We just scored it up real good because you want that to bond as much as possible to this. Like it sticks like shit to a blanket, but don't have any issues there. Now obviously this being the same circumference, obviously if you're doing this on a different car, you need to check that the check that your diameters are the same. This one happens to be exactly the same diameter tube, so the intake runner, that's what I was mentioning in the car actually, the intake tube is the same diameter. This is actually pretty hard to beat from factory. It is soft, but other than that, you can see inside it is all nice and smooth. It's not ribbed and ridged like most of these older Hondas have, or even the Subaru that's got a pretty janky intake system. You can see the air goes in there, pod filter sits out here, goes through up under into the turbo. It's pretty manky. Look at the size of this compared to the size of that. This is a 2.5 litre, the same as the V6. This is a turbo, and you look at the size of that intake tube there. How restrictive is that compared to this straight shot? So honestly, if you want an easy way to do this, you can cap this guy. So this guy here is a resonator box. It essentially dulls down the noise that the intake makes it nice and quiet. You could cap that, put a bottle cap or something in there, I don't know. Cap that, just run this tube and run a K&N air filter inside this guy here, and you're going to be pretty well the same. You're not going to be too much off one of these anyway. I just like mucking around and playing with stuff and fabricating, so you do probably want to. I'm not sure if the ISF or the IS350 is different, but this little guy here, I think I'm going to take that out too. Even if it's just this bottom section, you can see there's a big plastic doohickey there. And it really does not do wonders for this guy. I mean, once you're moving, sure, you might get some airflow if this is sucking the air in. But, you know, that sits up there and... Anyway, let's get this pipe off. This is where I want to chuck this guy. This part's the easy part because you've essentially got your full stencil here. Airflow is marked by the little arrow in our case here. I want to just chuck them on the side, maybe even underneath so I can hide all the goop. Chuck them under there along the airflow. So I'll probably put them right there. Makes it nice and easy. I'll mask it off and sand the area that's going to get the goop on it too, to make sure it's nice and firm and stuck in there, and make sure our loom and everything reaches, which it does. I've done that before. And yeah, let's keep going with that. Alright kids, so we've got the whole drilled, bloody noisy thing. You've got this all scratched up, we got the backside scratched up. We've cleaned it off with acetone, that's what's on that rag. You've made a good mess of everything here. You're still in your gym clothes and destroying those. Now, gloves, both hands. Learn from my mistakes. And we've got the arrow again, if you're doing it on the same thing, but most cars have the same deal. The arrow points towards the engine, the throttle body, or at least in this position it does. And then, what we need to do actually, we need to get some tape again. And we just want to go around the outside edges of where the tape was before. You can leave a little lip, a millimeter or less on the outside of that. This just helps clean up of this stuff later on, because it's pretty crazy messy really. I just tuck that on. Then when we pull this tape off, it'll give us a nice clean edge. This here. Now I did mount this on the underside as opposed to where I had shown you guys before. It's now underneath. You'll see anyway. That's the throttle body. That's under the underside of it, and this is where this bad boy is mounted. Because if I screw up the glue, at least you can't see it. And if it's really good, I don't care, because I just don't want to see it. Make sure this guy will sit on there nice. Oh, looks like our hole walked a little bit. So Yeah, now we are cooking with fire. That is the stainless setup done. So just gonna leave it raw dog, and yeah, that's pretty much it. So we got our little brace down here. This guy is stuck into the OEM rubber grommet down there and attached up here, obviously, just a nut welded on the back and a little Allen bolt washer. Clean that up a bit. Still stainless, would look better on black, but we'll get there. And the reason for that is you want a bit of movement because the engine's going to rock on the mounts. You don't want it firmly just bolted straight to the chassis because they move independently. So that's perfect. We got a bit of shock absorption from there and here. We got a potty chilling down there, and that's all clamped in, tightened up. So that is all set in there 100%. You can see it's a little bit of a tight fit. We've got literally just enough room. I mean, if you had a bigger pod filter, you could probably just trim this Rio bar here, but we're not going to do that. I'm going to get in there with a cloth and wipe down all that crap before the bumper and stuff goes on. And yeah, how bloody good is that? She sounds pretty nice too. I did start it up before. If you're under there and you get a whole lot of Christmas tree lights on your dash after, it's probably because you've unplugged or moved the ABS wheel speed sensor on this side here, which I did, and I was a little bit panicky because I was like, what the hell have I done, when all my dash lights came on. But that's because the ABS sensor I accidentally unplugged. You can see down here too, and this is our mass airflow sensor, and that works perfectly until I get that